5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, we're live. Welcome to the They Call Me Daddy podcast. Let me introduce the co-hosts. We got Mack, aka I Ain't Never Found a Bone I Don't Like Phillips. And we
go.
And we got Mondo. Mondo, I don't fuck with brushes, Davison. I am Torrean, aka Daddy. And welcome to the show, y'all.
Let's go.
Yeah, we all good. Let's get it,
What's
fellas.
up, fellas? I'm feeling good, man. Y'all, we cousins. We loving on each other. We having a good time, man. This is what this podcast is gonna be about, yo. We just gonna clown and hopefully drop some gems along the way.
Yes,
For sure. So let's check in, fellas. How y'all feeling today?
Man, I'm feeling pretty good. My energy's good today. You know, we closer to the weekend, which is always good for me. Ain't got to get all them damn kids up for school. You know, so I'm feeling pretty good. Happy to finally get this podcast going with y'all. How y'all feeling?
Go ahead, T. I'm gonna let you go because you know it took a while to get this podcast going. So how you feeling?
Man, I'm great, man. I'm great. I'm really excited to get this podcast going. And, looking forward to the weekend, going to the Kansas City to go check out the Chiefs game, bringing my daughter and my wife. So, it'll be a good time.
Hey, okay. Shout out to Ricky, you know what I'm saying?
And we gonna roll with it, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Man, that boy in the doghouse.
Who y'all got this week?
I didn't hear your comment. Mondo was talking to you, Mac.
No, I didn't hear him. I didn't catch that.
He said something about the doghouse.
No, that's all good. Go ahead.
I don't know. Never mind.
He's trying to stay out the kennel. All right, I got you.
Yeah, it's all good.
Mondo said some shit. So anyway, we got the Bears this weekend. We should get that easy W. I think Patrick Mahomes gonna get back on track. Lead the team back on track, man. We had a lot of mental mistakes the first two games, a lot of errors. So
for sure. So what you, Mondo?
Man, I'm good. I'm the dude without a wife. You know what I'm saying? And so my daughter's 16. She got a volleyball game this evening. They just had a dope win a couple nights ago. And so super excited for the night, man. I'm in the zone. I'm in the groove. Even though on the drive to school this morning, there was a topic that me and my daughter leaned into that was kind of heavy that, I want you two brothers to poke holes in and help me get through it.
All right. Before we get into that, Mondo, I'm going to be at the game tonight. So I'm going to be there. Rainey's going to be there. We're going to be at the game tonight. Looking forward to watching the greatest volleyball player that I know. And I know a few. I know a lot. Greatest volleyball player I know perform live. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, bet. Hey,
yes,
real quick,
yes, sir.
You going to be on time? Like you could pick me up?
Like, nah, because Rainey got...
It's all good. I wasn't gonna rely on you for that anyway.
Nah, Rainey don't get out of dance till 6:30. So I gotta scoop her up at 6:30, and we're gonna dip over there. So
that's what's up.
Yeah, he's gonna literally dip in 4 legs. Let's get
it. For y'all probably don't nobody know this except for family, but remember that Snoop Dogg video that came out where everybody turned into a dog. Mack was actually in that video. So in that video, if you look back to it, Mack is in there. He turns into a bulldog. And
okay.
I'm just one of them niggas that just don't let shit go. So like, I'm just never going to forget about that. And the fact that he was in a Snoop Dogg video. So, yeah.
Let's go, Sparky.
I feel like that dog pound music is just about to hit somewhere in this podcast. It's just what my energy is feeling.
Oh, yeah. It got to.
Yeah.
It got to. Yeah. So Mondo, tell us more about that conversation that happened today.
Ah, man. Like, all right, some of like surface level context, right? So imagine like this is my story background, and then it leads up to today. So I was an entrepreneur. I was in the, let's just say, statistical American 1%. So I was making some good bread, and then something happened in life. I say God tapped me on the shoulder and was like, man, get rid of all that. So I let it all go, like business, bread, house, car, all the stuff, right? And so fast forward to now, right? It has been a challenge because my daughter is 16 and, sweet 16. Now she's about to turn 17. Like that's that age where she's grown into a young lady, and also experiencing it being the first time in her life where her pops don't have the bread to like always be there to buy her what she wants. Like I grew up as a middle class spoiled kid, right? Like always got what I needed, and I'm shoes, clothes, whatever. Pop's always present, and so I'm still always present for my daughter, right? Like always there, but when it comes to material things, right? Like I haven't been able to do the things that I used to do. Anyways, went through this journey, discovered a different version of myself. I say the highest version of myself. And now that I'm stepping back out into the world, I was like, well, is it going back into the entrepreneur space? Is it getting a job? Is it something that I ain't even aware of? And I applied for one job that I was like, yo, this would be dope. And I ain't even get asked for the interview, which is cool. And so I was like, I guess I'm supposed to step back into this entrepreneurial space. So the first thing I did, I was like, all right, Patreon was on my spirit. Like, start this Patreon, just start spitting these bars that can add value to other folks, right? Like, cause that's what I do best. I pour into other humans. It just comes out of me. And so I'm like, here's where I'm going to start. Anyways, this morning, I showed my daughter this cover video of this Patreon, and her initial response is, so is this all you about to do? Right? Which I was, you know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, like I've been year in of like self-discovery, all the way broke, didn't know which way I was supposed to turn, point, whatever, right? It was just like a complete go into a cocoon, come out and see what's up. And so as I come out of this cocoon, I'm like, this is where I'm going to start. And me and my daughter have a great relationship, right? And for that to be her immediate response, she was like, well, is that all you're going to do? And then she started to say some more stuff. And then she was like, nah, never mind. Let me not say anything right now, which is dope, right? She didn't want to say the wrong thing, right? She was trying to protect my spirit a little bit. But that moment just had me thinking and reflecting like, yo, after all this time now stepping back out, I'm not going to say, is it the right thing? But having this conversation with you guys a couple hours after is just on my spirit to just have that talk. Like, yo, your kid, like, yo, dad, like my birthday's coming up, Christmas coming up, other stuff is coming up, and that's all you about to do. And so am I supposed to do more? I mean, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the things that sticks out right away is like you and Cadence's relationship is built on honesty, right? Like it's built on honesty, and so in that moment, she gave you an honest response, and so maybe that honest response was like, "Yo, Dad, like maybe the Patreon video just wasn't hitting to her, right? Maybe it wasn't the actual path of the journey or the method that you're planning on going down. Maybe she just wasn't feeling the video, you know, and." So maybe that's just a question where you're like tonight, where you revisit this conversation with her whenever y'all do, you just ask her.
No, for sure. And I'm wondering, like, is the Patreon route something that you're trying to do for yourself, or is it something, you know, like, are you looking for that financial part of it?
Yeah. So
Yeah, tell us more about what the Patreon is, so you know we can kind of get the grasp of the entire idea. You know.
So here's like you bring me into a room, whether it's one person or 2,500 people, I can move the audience, right? Like I can shift anybody to point in a certain direction. That doesn't mean that they're going to continue to follow me forever. However, like I can speak in a way that it creates pause and they're like, maybe that thing, right? And so I'm passionate about helping other folks. And I know I have the gift to go walk into rooms of CEOs or corporate folks or like big business cats and like help guide them and help find direction for like people in C-suite. Like I can do that all day. However, like that's just not where my heart's at, right? Like I want to be able to go do that for the cat that's a little lost or just starting or maybe middle class and like trying to find their way and pivot. Like I want to be able to show up for that person. However, that person can't afford me, right? And so how do I create a Patreon where there's this revenue stream that allows me to just pour in a whole bunch of stuff that helped me discover and define my peace of mind. And the bread from that allows me to just be out in community, be out in the world, just showing up for people wherever they're at. And so, you know, Patreon is the revenue source. It's the thing that I do best in front of a camera, which is the gift of gab. So I can then go outside and like not have a boss over my shoulder or not have a secondary business that takes precedent over somebody else. I can just show up for folks. I can come and do this podcast, right? And so, yeah, man, it's step one. I don't have any other step right now but that one step, and so I'm gonna take it. And I know my daughter's gonna have my back in the end, right? But it's just, it hurts your heart, right? When the person that you care about the most is like, yo, dad, I don't know, right? Like something about this like ain't really sitting with me. And so there's something about that I gotta listen to make sure that she's good, right? So it's not disrupting her school or her volleyball or her perspective on whatever. But I also gotta like go do the thing. So man, I don't even know if I'm actually looking for an answer from you guys. I just wanted to say it out loud, right? Because as men, that's something that we don't always do, right? Like something's on our heart, whether it's your wife, your significant other, your kids or whatever, like just being able to say it out loud is the thing that we actually have to release. And so we just started this podcast off kind of heavy, right?
Yes,
like,
sir.
I just started venting, but it's just something that was on my spirit.
Yeah, I got a follow-up question. So did you say you create pause or pause? Because if it's pause, I know Mack hurt his paw, and I definitely
very interested.
I'm definitely interested in the Patreon and supporting, because like he needs help with his paw. His back left one has been injured.
Okay, I see where this is going today.
Okay, I'm just asking that question. So, but no, on some real shit, like, who would you like to help? I know you said like that. Was it an entrepreneur? Is it somebody that's kind of stuck in the middle of like trying to figure out like their next move? Like ideally, who is that target audience?
Yeah, man, like if you walk outside right now, right, and just start roaming around for 3 hours, somebody's going to cross paths with you and you're going to be like, man, you look like I'm supposed to talk to you. Or they're going to say hi, or a conversation is going to strike up in a grocery store or in a coffee shop. We just run into folks that we're supposed to run into, or at least that's what I believe, because I think all things are one, right? That serendipity just happens. And so I just want to be able to have the freedom and flexibility to allow that serendipity to happen. And then when it does, not be like, oh, I got to go because I got a meeting. Oh, I got to go because I got to whatever, like all those things, a schedule that is never ending. So to say there is one particular person, there isn't. There's been this God-guided journey where like I'm just free flowing out there and I just run into the humans that I'm supposed to run into, or somebody calls me out the blue like, yo, Mondo, you are on my spirit and I feel like you can help me with this thing. Like, what's up? And I'm like, oh yeah, bet. I'll pull up tomorrow. Right. And so it's just that.
For sure. So when your daughter said that to you, when Kaden said that to you, what was your immediate like reaction? Like, was it an emotion? Was it did you say something back? Like, what was it?
Yeah, it was an emotion of, so there's this, it's funny because I started watching it. It's called like Bounty Dad or something. It's like this cartoon on Netflix. It's this black dad and the son and daughter. And the first episode. Oh, okay.
I like it. Yeah.
Okay.
I like it.
But so
daughter dad thing. Okay.
Yeah. So I only watched like half of the first episode, but there's a moment where daughter, I'm seeing that the way that the energy is like daughter's like, yeah, pops, like you ain't doing what you need to do right now. And I'm sure that everything comes full circle, right? And she starts to open up because she's concerned about XYZ, whatever. But like, I thought about that cartoon, right? Like in that moment, I was like, yo, this is a similar moment to how that character in that show felt when she just felt like, yo, I love my dad. I'm always going to be here for my pops. But this season, this moment is making me feel uncomfortable. I'm not an adult. I mean, I feel like as a kid, as a teen, he should be doing something different or something more or whatever. And so the pause was just reflective. It was, hit me in the gut for sure. But like, that's why we live in, right? To feel the stuff, feel all the feels, right? And then after we feel all the feels, like then go take the next step. And so I felt it. But it's going to make for a good story where it's going to be like, hey, you remember that one time? Remember where there was that situation where you had a little bit of doubt, right? Like, look how it turned out. And so it's all lessons that we learn, right? Like, I ain't gonna be broke forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all gonna work out how it should, and I just have faith that is just part of the story, bro.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. So like brutally honesty, right? Like that's what Cadence did. That's what her response was just brutal honesty and how she was feeling it at that time. Mac, have your boys ever like poured into you like just from a brutal honesty standpoint where you're just like, hold on, like what? And it was kind of maybe of a shock to you.
Hold on, real quick. I'm sorry for interrupting, Mac, but
you all good.
Man, this is what I love about this, bro. Like, it just gave me goosebumps. Like, just saying the stuff out loud allows for the other person to say the thing that, like, you were supposed to hear. Man, like, that's why this is dope. Just being able to have this conversation. So some months back, Cadence was on the fringe of honesty, right? And she was doing some stuff. I was like, man, I used to do that as a kid, and I caught her in a lie. And so I had her read the 4 agreements. And I was like, after each chapter, we're going to talk about it. And I felt good because each chapter, like she pulled something that I remember pulling out of it. And so for those that don't know, like the first agreement is be impeccable with your words. Right. And so T, what you just said was like, yo, Cadence chose to be brutally honest, which is her being impeccable with her words. It's the thing that I had been coaching her on. And so this moment just highlighted that, like, she doesn't have fear to be impeccable with her words, even with her father. And so, like, that's why I was supposed to share this with you guys, so I can hear that back, because that's what I needed, right? Like that. Now it turned into this proud dad moment. Like she got the lesson from 3 months ago, you know?
Yeah, that's raw, bro.
At a low moment too. So like, really, what is a low moment? You know what I mean?
Straight up.
You always got to take something from it. That's dope.
That's dope.
But I was going to hit on that, like, you know, that's kind of a blessing of having a daughter, because my boys, you know, they'll be going through something, but they're not gonna speak it. You know what I mean? So it's like me and their mom always constantly trying to figure out what they're thinking or how they're feeling. They're not expressive people. So I think, like, you know, me not having a daughter, like that's something I wish I had. You know what I mean? Just for that feeling that you just had, like, you know. So having boys, you don't really get that conversation. You don't get that honesty. It's just, you know, us being black males, we hold so much in, and I have to try to pull that out. So appreciate it. You know what I mean? Appreciate it.
I feel like this what we're doing right now is like us learning how to be vulnerable in our 30s. You know what I'm saying?
Sir.
Us 3 right now on this podcast is like, we didn't know how to share feelings. We didn't know how to almost cry 10 minutes into a conversation. You know
I was going to say, that was the first time I ever seen you emotional, like straight up. And I knew you my whole life.
Yo,
so that's for sure.
This is going to be powerful, yo. I like, or just because of that. I mean, I know we already knew it, but like that was healing for me, like immediately healing for me. So I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, that's dope, man. So like when you say like your boys aren't brutally honest, or like, you know, they don't share their emotions, do you feel like you provide the environment for them to be able to share their emotions or how they're feeling, or is that something that maybe like you feel like you need to work on?
I mean, it's always work. There's always things to figure out. You know, like I said, I try to grow with them. So like I try to have those conversations more because it's healing for me as well. You know, me not growing up without my dad, you know, without not having those one-on-one conversations with a male, you know, I want that from my boys. Like it's very important for me. So, you know, I am the problem in certain ways for them not doing that, because, you know, I didn't start opening up and being vulnerable till probably 3 weeks ago. So I mean, I get it, you know, but I just want them I don't want them to have that stigma like you always got to be tough, you got to hold everything in, because at the end of the day, it's just wearing you down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's important for context though. Like if you're open for it, Mac, like share a little bit about the dad story, right? Like just saying like I ain't have a dad, somebody could make an assumption,
sure.
You know what I'm saying? So I'll let you, I'll give you space for that.
So when I was about 8 years old, I think I was 8, my dad got into a really bad motorcycle accident. And long story short, it was something he never recovered from. Stayed in nursing home for years. It's kind of hard for me to talk about because I have some regrets. I didn't go see him too often, you know, for selfish reasons. I know that now. Like, you know, I don't know if I can't really speak for, you know, if he would have understood or was really present. You know, he couldn't talk. He had a tube in his neck. It was just very hard for me to be in that environment and see him. Like I still have trauma and anxiety from that stuff still to this day. Hate hospitals, you know what I mean? Like think about it often. Um but my dad was a good dad when he was around. I know he spent some time with Mondo. He loved the family. Um but the thing I take away from it is whenever I'm around my family on my dad's side, you know, they're like, "Man, you're just like your dad." So,
Yeah.
you know, I hold on to that, but you know, when I say my dad wasn't around, he wasn't no deadbeat or anything like that. It's just, you know, life just took him away from me at an early age. So,
No,
Yeah.
that context was necessary. Go ahead, T.
no, for sure, for sure.
I would say that's dope. And I think like one of the things that really hit me about a month or two ago, Mac, you had said to me, you're like, man, you're lucky you have a daughter. And I'm like, why is that? You're like, because daughters take care of their sons. Right. And like
Their
what you just,
dads, daughters take care of their dads.
my bad. Yeah. Daughters take care of their dads. Right.
Yeah,
And it
for
was just
sure.
like, and for me, it was just like, I never really thought of it like that. But then I see what's going on with my grandfather right now and how like my mom, my grandma, my aunt, they're at the nursing home seeing him all the time. Like my grandfather has
Mhm.
dementia, right? And it's like for me, it's like, man, he's the most important male figure in my life. And it's like, man, I might go check on him like once a month, month and a half. And it's hard because it's like, man, like I know he would be there if roles were reversed, but at the same
Mhm.
time, it's like, man, like seeing him as a shell of himself of who I knew
Mhm.
as a man, it's like, man, I feel like what he instilled in me is the ball has to keep rolling, right?
Mhm.
Like that you got to go take care of your grandma, you got to take care of your mom, you got to take care of your daughter. You got to take care of your daughter now. Like this is what I feel like he instilled in me is like, T, you got to keep going, you got to stay strong. Like you're the man of the house. Like when he looked at me and said to me, you know, you're the only person I trust in my life. Like I don't take that lightly,
Mhm.
right? And so it's just really interesting. Like, you know, I mean, if I was his son, I might have a little bit even more say so than I do now when it comes to decisions with his care, right? But like I'm trying to be respectful as possible as much as I can to my grandma and to my mom, my aunt, and like his kid, you know, my uncles and aunts. And you know, it's hard for me to do that, but at the same time I feel like that's what is the right thing to do, you know. So
Mhm.
you saying that about your pops, like I can definitely understand that because of what I'm going through now, but also you were a kid, man. Like you were young. And so like I wouldn't say have no regrets. Like you're carrying on that legacy right the fuck now, you know? And
Mhm.
like so don't be too hard on yourself on that, bro.
No, for sure. I mean, that also speaks to, you know, I know this is a little off subject, but the strength of a woman. You know what I mean? Like they go into those type of situations without hesitation, without even thinking about it. Like, you know, I'm gonna be present. I'm gonna be here. We're gonna figure this out. And obviously, you know, hearing from Mondo starts at a young age, right? Being that honest with your pops, that takes courage. That you know, like you said,
Yeah.
that shit's important. And Rainey, we know she put you in your place. So
Yeah, I get taught about myself every day. So, you
yeah.
know, even if it's like, yo, daddy, you didn't play with me today. And I'm like, what do you mean we played all these games? So it just wasn't enough. And I'm like, all
Mhm.
right, I got to try to figure that out. And there's a balance because she doesn't want to hear I got to work. She doesn't want to hear I got things to do. Like daddy got to have a life too. It's just like what you didn't do at that moment and like how you feel
Mhm.
and how you feel. And so, you know, I get told every damn day like, yo, you didn't do this and you know, everything. But
No, I was just going to say for the audience, let's fill in the gaps a little bit. So I have one daughter, 16 years old, just for context on where our perspective is coming from. Mac, you?
I got 4 boys. Yep, from 13 to 3 or
and
2.
he got about 100 puppies also running around the state of Minnesota and possibly and beyond. Um, and for context,
Come on, Sparky.
I got one daughter, and she's 6 years old. So
That's what's up. That's what's up. Go
No,
ahead.
for
Sorry for
sure.
interrupting, Mac. What you
No,
got?
so I was gonna say, like, so when it comes to disciplining your daughter, like, how do you guys do that? You know what I mean? Like, 'cause for me, I'm a little different. You know, depending on the day, is, hey man, you go calm down. And some days it's like, nigga, I'm about to punch the shit out you. Like, so how is it with daughters?
CPS, if you are listening, please turn off the podcast.
Hey
If we had
man,
If we have any snitches in the audience, please turn off the podcast.
Hey, we keeping it a buck on here, ain't we?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Hey, parental advisory, parental explicit advisory.
Let me clean that up. I've never punched my kids, but I be wanting to every motherfucking day. Straight up.
Hey,
that's funny. That's real though.
Nah, you ain't the only one. But nah, for me, when I was with Rainy, man, it's just always been like, go lay down. And she hates it. She hates that. Like, she literally hates to respond to that. Like, we had an area in the house that when she was younger, she had to go sit on this area and she hated it, right? And it was like, nope, you can't get up because you got in trouble. And then that turned into just go lay down. Oh, daddy, I don't want to. I mean, I'm talking about complete flip outs, right? And it's like, go lay down. And even like when it comes to like, you know, let's go there. That's when it comes to like spanking. I don't think I've ever really given her a spanking. It's just it's just showing her the action, right? The response to that like, you know, this could happen. And she is just like, oh, okay. And then like she gets it, right? And so like jokingly the other day, we were having fun or whatever. It's like, man, don't make me go get my belt. And she was like, oh, daddy, which one do you want me to get? And I'm like, man, like for me, I was beat with every fucking thing in the house.
Straight
like I'm pretty sure the wall came out and hit me one time and went back to turn it into the wall. Like, and so, but like, you know, for me, it's just, it's about evolution and parenting and just having that. I would rather have that communication with her and rather her be able to express herself in a way to me. And then hopefully when she turns into 18, 20 young woman and into adulthood, being able to express herself will play out in great dividends because she'll know how to do it respectfully. She'll know how to do it with confidence, and she won't fear anybody else because she can talk to her dad that way and have that communication with her dad. So ultimately that's been my strategy. I've learned a lot from Mondo. I've learned a lot from, all the great dads out there that are in my life. I try to learn as much as I possibly can, including you, Mack. So, shout out to you. Shout out to everybody that's a dad out there because, and especially if I know you, like I've tried to learn something and apply it to how I raise my daughter.
For sure.
That's what's up. I'll piggyback that for a second. I won't get into how I parent my daughter, but I think there's something about just understanding the longevity of perspective, right? So if you equip your daughter with a sense of autonomy, like she's in control, eventually, like she'll start to self-correct herself. And I'll give some practical, tactical tools on that later. But if you consistently just spank your kids every time they do something wrong, either one, that's how they respond in their life to other folks. They're like, oh, well, you do something wrong to me, like it's time to put these hands on you. Or two, they become so muzzled, and I just feel like a joke is just gonna happen because of that. They become so muzzled because every time
he's shaking his head because he's been muzzled many times.
Go ahead. I'm gonna let him finish. Go ahead.
Because every time they took a risk on something, right? Every time they tried to be brave and do something that was kind of on the fringes, they got a spanking, which means they grow up and they become compliant, right? And so it's this juxtaposition, like, yo, we want to raise leaders. However, every time they do something outside of the lines, if they're spanked, like they become more compliant. And so creating an environment where like consequences are in place, yes, but you allow them to cross that line 2 times, 3 times, 5 times, and eventually they're like, oh man, this consequence just ain't working for me. I need to change my own behavior. And I just think as kids, that's a thing, but also as adults, like it's the same thing, right? Like one analogy that I always use, I'm like, yo, when we're late, we be speeding, right? And like we risk getting a speeding ticket. And it's just like, man, I ain't got a speeding ticket in like 7 years. So like, cool, if I speed, I got to pay this $200 ticket, whatever. But imagine if the first speeding ticket you get is $150. The second is $200. Right. The third is $250, and it just keeps going up. Every time you get a new speeding ticket, it incrementally goes up. Well, then you start to think like, man, it's my 10th time speeding. Like either I'm going to be on time to work or I run the risk of getting a $500 speeding ticket. Right. Then you're like, man, it ain't worth it. You know what I'm saying? It's like because you're in control. You're like, I done got caught speeding 9 times and it's my fault. If I do it again, it's just another L that I put on myself. So anyway, it's just kind of thinking that way of like creating ways for your kids to learn on their own and accept consequences that they already know are in place is like the thing that helped me parent my daughter the best. I can ramble, you know what I'm saying? Like former educator, former educator. Like when there's these teaching moments, because I really am proud of the dad that I am because of what Torrean said, like, and having a bunch of other dads around me to like teach me the game. Like I try to share as much of this as I possibly can.
No, I mean, Torrean only knows what he knows. So if you notice, if you paid attention, how he disciplines his daughter is by his commands. Sit, lay down, roll over. It's all good though. So you only know what you know. But no, to continue the conversation.
So he just told us how he disciplines his 100 pups from his kids. So yeah, go ahead.
No, for sure. But one thing I noticed is like, because I listen to you guys, we talk personally and stuff, about parenting and all that. So I stopped whooping my kids, trying to, do the right thing and just talk to them more. But there's certain shit I noticed now, man. It's like, man, like there's some mornings we run out of Z-bars. Somebody screaming early as hell in the morning, we need Z-bars. I'm like, man, I'm a soft ass dad to be letting my boys wake up. And it's not one, but it's two. Mack pissed off. He got to ride the bus. It's like, am I spoiling them too much? Like sheltering them too much? Because I feel like, man, I'm super soft now. I'm over emotional watching movies with dads and kids. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like complete 180 from how I was raised and, what I was taught growing up.
Yeah, the one thing that I say about that, right? If you think of like our OGs, right? Like that generation was tougher, let's just say, consistently more rigid in how things were supposed to be. And so the millennials, we became who we became because of the rigidity of that parenting, right? No right.
What, nigga?
Rigidity, rigid, right? Are we good?
Limited vocabulary over here.
So, right, there was a very like rigid way of parenting, which dope, right? I'm not saying that was the wrong way to parent. I'm just saying that the way that Gen X parent kids birthed millennials. And so now millennials aren't going to parent exactly like Gen X. They're going to parent like millennials, and they're going to create, right, the next generation. And what is it, Gen Z or whatever, right? And so you saying like I'm soft watching movies or whatever, I think that's necessary. I think if you try to be exactly like the OGs, then you're just going to get another version of Mack, right? Like God is like, yo, I done already created Mack, right? Now I need this next version, right? And so that's having like softer dads, I guess. Like, so.
Yeah, I think what you should just do is just tell them niggas to grab their wallets. Nah, for real, tell them niggas to grab their wallets, bring them to the store, and tell them to go buy their own damn Z-bars.
No, hey, facts.
But I also don't have 4 kids, right? Like I got 1, so I can have 4 boys in the house. Like,
yeah, it's wild.
There's some jealousy factor though, because the boys want Z-bars and the dogs want bones, and he tends to lean towards having bones. So anyway,
calm down, Sparky. Let's go.
Hey, y'all dudes, man, and these jokes is wild. So quick question though, as mid-30-year-old males, like, do you feel like we actually have a very defined role? Like, we're nearing that midlife crisis or ascension or whatever. Like, are there rules to this age? Like, what are we supposed to be doing? Are we supposed to be settled into our career and all this stuff? Like, do you have an opinion on like what we are supposed to be doing right now?
Man, I just really believe we're supposed to be just enjoying every fucking day, man. Enjoy your life. Like, we have all the tools. I mean, we have the education now. We have, if you have kids or if you don't have kids, whatever the case may be, just try to enjoy every day, right? Like, don't spend so much time and being too hard on yourself or living in the past or whatever else. Like, just enjoy every day. Seize the moment. Like, that's just something that I try to do. I've been doing, I think, for the last like 13 years, 14 years and trying to do that every single day and just enjoying my life and traveling and, having a daughter and all the things and just, let's make every day epic.
For sure.
It doesn't turn out that way, but that's the goal, right? That's the goal. So.
No, yeah, I seem to want to. Their mom is very, very present. She's on them as well. So I think just having her to help me support, like, I agree with Torrean. Piggyback off what he's saying is just enjoy life, and we're gonna pick up lessons and gems together. When you pick something up, you tell me. I'll pick something up. I'm gonna tell you, and it's just living life, man. Life though. Appreciate
it. If we talk about, are there any insecurities or vulnerabilities that you're facing right now that you're like, man, as a man in my mid-30s, this is something that I know I need to work on for sure. And we don't have to go into what the thing is, but just saying it out loud, and then you kind of just you give it less power by being able to say it out loud.
Yeah, like for me, I'm. Go ahead, Mack. Go ahead.
Oh, mine is short and sweet. It's just patience. Like, continue to develop patience. You know what I mean? From because 13-year-old problems are way different than 2-year-old problems, but you get them all. They don't. All they know is to express themselves. So you just continue to grow more and more patience.
Yeah, and then like for me, I think one thing I was gonna piggyback off of what we were asking before is like have active ears. Like don't be receptive to learning. Like be receptive to having conversations, being more open, being active, and unlocking the vault that you've become. Right, like because like that's really how you grow. Like so, like one of my insecurities, I would say like I'm a big dude. And I'm 6'3", about 345, 350. I'm a bigger guy, and I've been bigger my whole life. And I like being bigger, right? And then one thing I was talking to Mack about maybe a couple of years ago is he was just like, yeah, but like, what do you have all the extra weight for? Like, you're not playing sports anymore. You really ain't trying to fight nobody. Like, what's all the extra weight for? And so that made me really just start to think.
I said, what?
Yeah, you said that to me. Yeah. Like, it was just like, what's the point of having extra weight? And it was just something that like really.
Oh,
really,
okay, I got you. I remember that. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, he was just like, you ain't trying to. It's like as you get older, what's the point of it? And I was like, oh, okay, I need to rethink about that or whatever. And so, 10 years ago, I had lost a bunch of weight. I was in the gym for, 4 times a week or whatever. And then I threw my back out. And so it's like just really healing that and just saying like, okay, there's really no point in having this extra weight now. I need to figure out how to do it. Like I'm not insecure with the way I look. Like I love being a big nigga. Like I really do. And, so, how about you, Mondo?
I felt like Mack was about to say something.
No, he was gonna say something slick. You know what I'm saying? But it's all good.
It's all good.
He's slobbering.
Nah, at first I'm like, hold up, what you talking about? You made it seem like I was body shaming or something at first. I was trying to figure out where you were going with it. Caught me off guard.
Not at all.
No, you all good. What about you, Mondo?
Nah, for me, I would say my biggest insecurity right now is learning how to not be Superman. Like, I was the cat that, and I'm still the cat that, like, my imagination is boundless, right? And so I'm like, well, if this is cartoon or this live action show where somebody could fly, well, then shoot, I should be able to fly, right? And so, like,
he was also Captain Save-A-Ho. Anyway, go ahead. So not to be Captain Save-A-Ho, go ahead.
So I was just always, on this savior complex, like whether it was building this tech company that changed the world or like changing everybody's mind for like to be a certain way. And then now, like after sitting back for the past year, I've been able to just look at life a little bit differently and be like, yo, like, yeah, this is a melting pot. You know what I'm saying? Like cats are going to be different. Cats are going to literally have opposing positions on everything. And hopefully we can shave off the edges. You know what I'm saying? That, Mack fell off.
Just keep it rolling.
We'll come back. Hopefully we can shave off the edges of like stuff that's like really messed up for the world. But I don't know. I don't have to save everybody and everything anymore. And that's new for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I want to show up for cats around me. But it used to be like, yo, I need to show up for cats around me and become so much larger than life that like everybody follows me. And now I'm like, that may not be the recipe for me anymore.
Nah, for sure. So did that create a certain type of pressure? Like, did you ever feel the pressure?
Nah, pressure was never really a thing. Like, put the team on your back. Like, that was always like, yo, why not? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was always looking for the next challenge. Seek more haters. Like, that was just something I always told myself. Like, if ain't nobody hating on you, then you ain't making enough noise yet. You ain't disrupting enough stuff yet. So I've never felt pressure in that regard. There were some times when I did feel like I was behind schedule, right? But that was me, like, putting that on my own self, right? Nobody else was saying you were behind schedule. That was just like, man, I'm supposed to be more successful or doing more things at a certain age than I was. But I've since released that for sure.
No, I got you. No, that makes sense. It makes sense. I mean, just knowing your journey and over the years, and being an athlete, and then stepping into the entrepreneurial space, and networking and everything else. It's like we do have big ideas. You did have, like, a bigger vision and everything else. And I think, like, just kind of saying, like, I don't have to be the main guy. I don't have to be the person in the forefront. I think that's dope. That's evolution. That's having the active ears I was talking about earlier. So
Yeah,
I love that.
leading from the back. It's just one thing I've been saying over and over and over to myself. It's like, yo, if there's a leader in the front, that's cool. That person in the front is like, has a vision to see beyond all the stuff. Cool. But like, behind that leader is a bunch of people, right? Following that leader. But if you're in the back, the last one, it's like, yo, you making sure that don't nobody fall off, right? On the tail end, right? So you see everybody. It don't even matter what they look like, what their face is. It's just like, yo, if you falling too far behind, right? Like, I got to make sure that you can catch up. And so leading from the back is just a spot that I've settled into, and it's been really rewarding.
Yeah, no, that's dope, bro. That's great to hear.
What about you, bro? Like, what's a passion? You know what I'm saying? Like, passion, purpose, something outside of being a dad.
Outside of being a dad, it really is just to, I have a digital marketing agency, so help clients be visible on Google and help them get results for their business. And so I love that. I love what I do on the marketing side of things. I'm really excited about this podcast because the two of us, part of my morning routine is talking to you in the morning and talking for an hour or two while I'm working and trying to get everything organized for the rest of my day. And we just have these super deep, dope conversations that just mean a lot to me. And it's just so much so where it's like when you talk to other people and they're like, oh yeah, I never thought about that. Or if I'm just referring to them and saying, man, I had talking to Mondo about this, and he gave me this gym and it just really applies to your life. And it was like, oh yeah, man, I appreciate that, hearing that. And you start having so many conversations. Cause I mean, I have a lot of, brothers, extended family, like, really close friends to me that I talk to on a regular basis. And so now I'm able to say, hey, come to the podcast because this applies to your life for this reason, right? It's not just about, it's not like, and they can actually hear what Mondo has to say or hear what Mack has to say or hear what I might have said in the podcast, because organically, when we say something, that's oftentimes the best thing that we could possibly say it, because it applies and it was just a natural feeling, kind of like the brutally honest thing that Cadence said to you, right? Like, her saying that to you maybe a hell of a lot, hit it home a hell of a lot differently if she would have held that in. And then after the volleyball game today, she just says, hey dad, I just kind of feel like maybe you need to do more. And it might have been like, oh, well, how come you didn't tell me that earlier? Right. And so like, being live and being live and present and saying it in the moment. Now this gives us the opportunity to do that. So
yeah, for sure. I want to highlight what Max said. He talked about patience, right? Even though he fell off the screen for a second, he'll be back. But I want to give you kudos for your patience. And if you want to tell the story, right? Like, how long you been asking to do this podcast?
Man, I've been asking Mondo to do a podcast for about 1.5 years now. And Mondo is one of them dudes that, like, if he doesn't see it, he ain't gonna do it. Like, you could, I mean, shit, it don't matter. He's disciplined in his ways. That's a polite way of
Yeah, I
fucking saying
appreciate
it.
that. Yeah.
That's a polite way of fucking saying it. But then I would say 3 months ago you were like, "Yep, T, I'll do it," and then I had some things on my end of things I needed to tie you up, and Mondo's putting this pressure, like, because like I said, he's stuck in his ways, so he's like, "Nigga, we need to do it now," and I'm like, "Man, nah, like what you." Like, what you mean? I've been waiting for a year and a half for this podcast, and then you're like, now that you say we need to do it, we need to do it right now. And so, Mondo would also say that, everything happens when it's supposed to. And so today on September 21st, shout out to John. John is one of my best friends, my oldest friend in the world. And he's turning 40 today. So shout out to him. Happy birthday, John. I hope you have a blessed one, and take care of your 2 kids and your wife, and y'all just have a great day. So,
Man, that's super dope. That's super dope. It's, man, being able to have patience and showing grace, right? Like, you showed me grace, a year and a half of grace, even though like you saw a thing, you felt it or whatever, and you allowed me to like do all the other things that I needed to do before I could see it. And I just think that's so important, one, for like our kids, but also for the adults in our relationships, right? And I'm not even talking about like intimate relationships, rather it's friends, uncles, cousins, right? Neighbors. Like, yo, just because we see a thing and it's clear as day to us, and we're like, how do you not see this, bruh? Or how do you not see this, lady? Like, it's possible that it's just not time for them to see it yet. And just literally just giving them grace to be able to, walk their own path and eventually discover the thing, as long as it's a thing that came from a place of love, they're going to see it. I just think it's just super powerful and super important. So, man, thanks for having that grace, bro.
oh yeah, all day, man. That's what family does for each other. We have each other's backs, and that's what we're supposed to do, bro. Yeah, man. So we apologize for a little break up, little technical difficulties. Oh shit!
Yeah,
As
I
soon as
was
we
about to
said that
say
shit, yo shit.
no, it wasn't me. It wasn't me that time.
Nah, your shit was froze up again like a motherfucker. G, I'm like,
No,
damn.
it wasn't me that time.
Nah, but we do apologize for technical difficulties. Of course, on episode 1, we had some power and some AOL internet issues. So, Mac, hopefully you can, get with the times and get with Xfinity, bruh, because, we need you, man. We need you. Get rid of dial-up, bruh.
No, I think Xfinity was the problem, but yeah, we'll push forward.
Yeah, but something I want to discuss, man, is so I was out and about the other day at a high school football game, and I see a girl wearing an Aaliyah t-shirt, right? And the first thing that came to mind is I got a little mad, like, who the fuck do you know about Aaliyah, right? And the second thing was just like, man, do your parents know about Aaliyah? Because Aaliyah was like, she had such a brief career, but it was also one of those things where, because she died so early, like growing up with us, it was like, she was like the main female artist at the time, right? And I'm like, so I kind of took a little offensive. Like, ever since Aaliyah's died, though, too, I also can't really listen to her music. Like, that's just how I am with artists. When artists pass away, like even like Michael Jackson or Tupac, whoever it is, I just can't really vibe with their music like I used to, because they're no longer with us. And so, anyways, transitioning, like, start thinking about Aaliyah is like, that song, if at first you don't succeed, you got to try again. And it's like, when you're young, you're like, man, she's fine, she look good or whatever. That's all you care about. Like, the song bangs, like, it's a really good song, but it was just like, yo, I never really got the message to the song until I was like 30 something. I'm like, man, like, if at first you don't succeed, you got to try again. And so, like, I think this segues into like what Mondo was talking about earlier, trying to revamp everything else. Like, what's that resiliency moment? Like, when did y'all learn, like, it's okay to fall, you just got to get back up? But like, obviously, we hear what people say, these things, right? But when did you actually learn that?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually thinking about this in the elevator right before our original session started. You know how they say the third time's a charm, right? And so I was thinking like, dang, have I actually hit the bottom 3 times? And then is this the final arc? And I was like, yeah, actually I did. Like the first time I hit the bottom was when my mom died at 10. And that was like, I say my Jason Bourne moment, right? So for context, like everything before 10, I can't remember. Like I don't have memories of my mom. I just know that she was dope. And so like that was break one, right? And so, you know, from 10 to 25, it was all about basketball. I was an athlete. I'm gonna go to the NBA, all that stuff. And then I said, well, if I'm not in the league at 25, like I'm done with that. And so like 25 happened. I hung the shoes up. I chipped my front tooth. Front tooth fell out, and I was like at the bottom again. I ain't have nothing, no front tooth, no nothing. I was like, oh, like that's the second time I hit rock bottom. And then so fast forward, got out of that, educator turned entrepreneur. And, you know, like I said, reached statistical 1%. And then something in my spirit was like, nah, now you need to choose to go hit rock bottom, right? Like, are you brave enough to do that? And so after doing that, like coming back out of it, like I think you being forced into that falling the first two times, I think is the thing, right? But like, are you willing to go be brave enough to go find that thing down there, you know, when you're at zero that you didn't expect to have to go get when you're in your 30s or 40s or 50s or whatever it is, right? And so the one thing I say about that is like, you know, shout out to Kanye, because Kanye then his music helped me get out of a lot of stuff or helped me like step into a lot of stuff. So he's dope artist, it's epic. But the one thing that I specifically disagreed with Kanye on is when he was going on this tangent saying like, I don't listen to broke folks. Right. And so it's like, yo, like, don't be so far in your ego that you're unwilling to listen to the wisdom of the people that are from where you came from at one point in time. And so just sharing all that, like resilience for me was I was forced into it, into the bottom twice. And then the third time I chose it. And so hopefully that's the charm and I don't have to do it again.
No, for sure.
No, that's
Go ahead,
dope.
G.
No, I just said that's dope. Like, you know, do you feel like that was, you know, your resiliency just looking back at it? Do you feel like, you know, what was something that encouraged you to just to keep on going? Like, you know, because when you did chip your tooth, when you realized you weren't going to make, you know, the NBA, like you were a young dad at that point in time, right? And so like, was it just cadence? Was it your family? Like what inside of you is just like, man, I gotta keep moving forward, you know?
Well, I mean, I could probably say a lot of stuff, but I'll probably just lob it back to you and say, like, as small of a gift as that rock was, right? Winners never quit, quitters never win. Like, that has never left my spirit, right? And so it's a rock that my dad got me for my birthday. I don't even know what year. I wish I could find it again.
Oh, I
But
remember that rock.
yeah,
Remember
that rock is heavy, you know what I'm saying? And so I'll lob it back to you, Torrean, because I know like it sits on your heart a little bit about like how significant that rock is or isn't, or the impact that it had.
Yeah, like I don't know who gave the gift of the rock, but I know like Mondo had got it, my cousin Lex had got it, and we're all like, you know, within a year and a half apart of each other. So, you know, I'm the oldest of the three, but I never got one. And it's like, and that's something that always fucking hurt me, you know, is because like it was like, yo, I'm gonna give this, like that rock would just sit there. It was a mantle. It was like just something that was symbolic, and I didn't get one. And I don't know if like each of their dads gave them one and my pops just didn't give me one, or if it, you know, was an uncle gift to nephew, or how the rock came about. But it's just something that like, you know, I was even told Mondo, I'm like, man, that really affected me and like my confident level and things like that. Like if I would have got that rock, I feel like I would have ascended in life and been like a lot more confident and more resilient at a younger age. Now looking back, my fucking story is epic, and I know I've been resilient my whole life. I've overcome a lot, right? But like believing that is two different things. Like recognizing and believing that you did that is two different things. So right on time for the podcast, bro.
Yeah, I know, bro. I apologize, brother.
Nah, it's all good, man. You know, nephew will be all right.
Yes, sir.
Hey, it's a parents podcast.
It's a parents podcast.
I know, you know, yeah, for sure.
It's a parents podcast. But what about you, Mac? Like, tell us about some resiliency that you feel like you accomplished as a, you know, as an adult, and like when did you know that it was okay to fall and get back up?
I think it's like something we always talk about, the whole ego thing. I think you're supposed to fall. You're supposed to hit bottom, more than once. It keeps you level headed. It keeps you hungry. Um, but I always had you guys to look up to. Like you guys were a big influence in my life. I don't know if I tell y'all that enough, but um, just that. Then you end up eventually having kids, and you don't want to let them down. You want to show them the way. But continue to fail, man. I'm big on that because, like, and then Torian, when I went through a tough moment, you tell me, hey, it's all right to fall as long as you get back up. So just having good people around me always kept me going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and for me, like, that's dope to hear, bro. Like, that's so dope to hear. And I think for myself, I mean, I started my first business when I was 19, didn't go the way that I wanted to. Then we had a tech startup that I swore was just going to be like, I mean, there's things in the internet right now, companies in the internet right now that I'm like, yo, that's my idea. And I see it, but, the path, I guess I didn't work hard enough or whatever it wasn't meant for me to do that. Right. And so, like, I was very hard on myself when I worked a job I absolutely hated for 8 years. I absolutely hated this job, met some incredible people, but just, lacked that confidence, and I got my degree and applied for many, many jobs. I mean, I applied for over 200 jobs in 1 year and I got 2 interviews and I still didn't even get a new job. Right. And it took really till my daughter was born for me to then to have the confidence again to start my own business and say, I'm going to bet on myself, because how can I tell her she can accomplish anything if I'm not walking that same thing? And so, that walking the same, practicing what you preach, right? And so, like, that was, I think, the moment I realized, like, it's okay to fall, it's time to get back up. And, like, failure is okay. Like, if something doesn't go your way, we don't even have to label it as failure. We could just say, oh, well, that didn't go that way. And, like, something Mondo has always been good at is just, like, pivoting. Like, Mondo is like, I'm gonna stress about it. I'm not even gonna stress about it. It'll take me a day to get over it and I'm gonna move back on. And, like, Mondo's dad, Uncle Ed, he was always like, T, why are you so stressed out? Like, he's like, I never met a 19-year-old person in my life so stressed out like you. And it's like, man, I don't think he really realized, like, how much I carried on my shoulders at that point in time. Like, through all the anger, throughout all the things that happened to me as a kid, I felt like, man, I gotta hit the ground running. Right. I got to hit the ground running.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's something that you said that I think is really important for somebody that might be in a similar situation. You talked about losing that confidence and then working a job for 8 years and then Rainey being born and then having the confidence to go step back out. My question is, when Rainey was born, was it courage that entered your life again, or were you just automatically confident again? Because I think there's a nuance there, right? And if it was courage, then, like, talk about what it looked like to have courage and take them baby steps versus Rainey was born and all of a sudden I was Kobe, right? Like, so what was that actually like?
Yeah, so her being born was like the most beautiful moment of my life. I mean, I cried for 30 minutes uncontrollably, crying, called my mom, like, called family, and, like, it was just the most beautiful moment of my life. Like, I could not stop crying because we didn't know if we were having a boy or a girl. Like, we didn't know. I thought, like, so we were like, oh yeah, the baby's sitting this way, it's gonna be a boy. Oh yep, the baby's sitting this way, it's gonna be a girl. And it's like the moment she came out, I cut the cord. You see during labor, you see some shit you don't, you definitely ain't looking forward to seeing. So it's like, oh, okay, like, what was that? But man, I seen my daughter and it was just like, it was so beautiful. I uncontrollably started crying. And so at that point in time, it was like, as I mentioned earlier, the resiliency, like, my grandfather was like, okay, it's time to go. And so I looked at her mom and I was like, do you want to stay at home with her, or can I do it? Right. And she's like, nope, I don't want to do it. Go ahead. I said, I want to bet on myself again. And she's like, yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll work together. And through that, we've helped each other grow. Right. So it's not just all on me. It's like, I had to have that perfect partner that also realized the bigger picture, was like, yo, build that bond with your daughter that you didn't have, that you feel like you didn't have with your parents growing up. Go ahead, bet on yourself, your business again, because I believe in you that much, and things like that. So it's just, it took time to humble yourself. Like, you go from making money to then stay at home parent, not making nothing. It's like, talk about an ego check. It's like, man, and then
Mhm.
talk about the fact that only person you talking to can't talk back to you. Like that's a
Mhm.
whole nother. That's a whole nother thing as well. But they look up to you, and you know, there's. I mean, it hasn't been all roses, right? Like it hasn't been all great things, but it shows you the resiliency, right?
Mhm.
So
Yo, I'm curious if Mack is interested in speaking to that, because me and Mack talked recently about the humility that we had to face, like not being the breadwinner, right, and having to rely on a partner to carry the weight. Like,
Mhm.
what's that look, sounding, and feeling like, bruh?
I mean, it's a daily battle for me, you know, because you want to be that tough guy who provides and take care of the family, but you know, you really grow through submission, I believe, in every aspect of life. So, like, once I was able to submit, then I'm checking my ego's gone. Then it's not, you know, my focus isn't on the financial part. It's all right. Well, what can I do to make sure that her day's better? Like that the kids are taken care of, like the nurturing side that black men that we don't really get to tap into too much. So I've been focusing on that a lot more. In doing that, I gain confidence. So then I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna quit my job as well, and I'm gonna bet on myself. So, like, there's a lot to gain once you understand the importance of submitting to life, to, you know, just letting go of all the bullshit that we was taught that really ain't real at the end of the day. So yeah, I'm still working on it. You know what I mean? But I'm proud of myself for doing it. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think being able to say that, right, I'm proud of myself, is just so big, right? Like as men, I don't hear us saying that enough, right? Like, man,
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of me for the decisions that I have made or am making, right? And so, like, I had always, like, whether it was sports or school or whatever, like, accolades always came easy to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they all just went in a box, right? They were insignificant. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't care. And there weren't many moments where I'm like, yo, I'm proud of me. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
remember I was at Florida A&M, first year there, and it was the first time that I was like, oh, school is dope, because I started learning some different stuff going on at HBCU, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I took this chemistry class, and in my head, bro, chemistry did not work. I'm just like, man, I ain't never failed no class, but I'm like, this might be the first class that I fail. And my grades came out, and I had a 4.0, bruh.
Wow.
I jumped for joy. I was yelling. I was like, I was so proud of myself, and let's just say the magic of the world, because I don't know how that happened, right? But like that, that was a moment that I was proud of myself. Being a dad was an expectation and is an expectation, and I love that. But then like leaving everything behind and like searching for a better version of myself, like that's the second time in my life that I've been proud of me for doing something outside of my reach, something that I couldn't see or whatever. And so all that to say, man, like it's super dope to hear you say like, yo, I'm proud of myself, because I think that's big.
well, we're
No,
taught
for
not to.
sure.
We're proud. We're taught not to do that, right? Like everybody
Mm-hmm.
is. Like if you pat yourself on the back, then oh, you're being cocky, you're being arrogant, you're whatever, right? But it is dope to be able to say like, hey, you know what? I did that shit today. You know what I'm saying? I shined
Mm-hmm.
today. Like that is dope. So one thing I want to say though is like Mondo, the story you told earlier with Cadence, right? Is and you're like, yo, that brutally honest moment. You're like, oh, that was teachable. It was a teachable lesson. Let's segue that. Let's change that into how do we teach our kids that it's okay to fall and not get back up? I mean, and get back up. Like it's okay to fall and get back up. Like this is a great teaching moment to you to teach that to Cadence. Or is there a moment where Cadence like got off track and she may have had a little bit of quote unquote failure, and you know she had to be more resilient, or you know, or is that just right now? Like is this moment right now in life, seeing her dad who's been there since day one go through transition, right?
Yeah, I
A
think
a transition, not transition, my bad, but yeah.
that's all good. I I actually think it's way more on us taking the handcuffs off of our kids, right? Like we can say like, yeah, we want our kids to fall and get back up, but boy, we sure do be diving trying to catch them before they hit the ground. You know what I'm saying? Like, because as loving parents, right, like that is our disposition. And so with Cadence, I had to fight myself to allow her to do some things that I saw like this is gonna catch up with you, right? Like, but I can't even tell you in advance. And even if I do, you're a teenager. You're gonna be like, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about, right? Like, that's just how it always goes. And so, the best way that I can respond to your question, T, is check yourself, pause as a parent, and ask yourself, yo, can I have faith in this situation? Can I believe that if I allow my daughter to walk this road by herself, I'm around the corner, right? But I got to let her walk this road by herself. Like, is she going to meet me on the other side, right? And that's just faith, right? There ain't nothing else to that but faith. Not like, yo, am I going to be hiding on the side of the cars while she's walking down the street, right? Like, so I can dive in case somebody jump out on her, right? Like, that's a way, right? But I think eventually we end up having to go all the way to the other end of the block and just wait for our young one to grow into themselves, right? And that might not be until they get married and you got to release them to their husband or their significant other. But eventually we just have to do it. It's inevitable. It's part of the process. And so I am proud of myself for convincing me in the spirit of faith, right? To like let it happen right now, right? And so it's hard. It is fucking scary. I'm gonna say one more thing. Like, very rarely do I swear about something, but I did not grow up with anxiety. People used to be anxious around me. I'm like, man, y'all need to suck this shit up, right? I didn't understand it. But when it came to like releasing the power and like allowing Cadence to do some stuff that I know she is out of line, out of pocket, out of bounds, and being like, this is scaring the shit out of me, yo. But like, either now or later, right? Like, yo, did I equip Cadence with enough tools for the first 15 years of her life to allow her to go step into this world and fall on her face, right? And I would say that she's done an excellent job, an outstanding job, but it's still scary. It's terrifying, but that's faith, right? Like,
Exactly.
belief is like, I can see a thing and I believe that I can get to it. Faith is like, I don't even know what's on the other side of that curtain. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going to trust it. And so like, I had to jump from that belief to faith, and that's just scary, bro.
So
No, facts. How about you, Mac?
repeat the question for me.
Just like resiliency in your kids, or like, has there been a moment where they've fallen and like you've had to kind of teach them it's okay to get back up? Like, how do you instill that in your kids? Like, I mean, obviously 2 are very, very young, right?
Yeah.
But the other 2, you got a teenager on the rise, and you got one that's looking up to his big brother that's going to be a teenager pretty soon. So like, how do you put that in them? I mean,
Man, like I continue to say, just like Mondo said, I'm gonna piggyback off what he said. You just gotta have faith, man. Like I'm a spiritual guy. I'm praying constantly, but like you just gotta believe that, you know, the lessons that God gave you, that you give to your kids, like that they actually hear you. You know what I mean? Or they listening and not just hearing you. So I rely on that the most. Like my boys are still pretty young though. They're still shy and in their shell. So Mondo got a 16-year-old, so I'm not really there yet. But you know, I know it's coming. But just keep giving them the small little gems that I can, you know, one day at a time.
Yeah. So Mack's a football coach. He runs the #1 flag football program in the state of Minnesota. They're nationally ranked. They travel to games and stuff. And it was last year. I want to say the game was last year. They had a big tournament here in Minnesota, and I went to the tournament, and they didn't finish where they wanted to. They didn't win the tournament, right? And so we're watching the championship game, and you know, kids are bummed out and everything else. And Mack's on the ground with one of his sons that was playing, his son Morrow. And I just took pictures. Like, he didn't know I was taking the pictures, right? And so that pops up over my phone, over my feed, because it's like most coaches might be down holding their head, and he's on the ground holding his son. And like every time that picture pops up, sometimes I send it to him, but it's like one of my top 5 favorite pictures on my phone right now, because it's the lesson is like, yo, you've fallen, or like you feel like you might feel some type of way, son, But guess what, man? There's a tomorrow exists, right? Like tomorrow exists, and we're gonna pivot and move on. We're gonna move forward, but also letting kids know, like, because that teenage time, it's like so many emotions. They feel like the world's against them. They may lack confidence themselves. They're trying to figure out and discover who they are, and it's like in that moment of just being there with them, it's just like, man, you know what? It's okay. Like, be confident in you. And so, man, I love that, and I tell you that all the time. But
yeah,
I love that
I
picture.
appreciate
Okay,
that.
hold on. Let me piggyback the shouting out each other as dads, right? So T, you told me a story about Rainy and piano.
Oh yeah,
And I was just like, yo, that was such a dope, resilient dad story, like practical, tactical. Like, yo, you showed up for your daughter in a way that I thought has to be memorable for her, because I know it was memorable for you. Are you open to share that story? Because I think it was to ours.
Oh yeah, for sure. So, like, she's in a lot of different events, and like any 6-year-old, she complains when it's time to do something. Like, say they just want to play, they want to do whatever. And my daughter definitely loves to run the show. Like, she's a showrunner. Like, she's
for sure.
she's a
On
leader.
the
She's a
show.
showrunner. So it's like,
Yes,
if you tell her, like, if you tell her to do something, she's gonna ask you why, all these things. And when I told my mom, like, yeah, she just does this, my mom's like, oh, now you know how it feels, because I'm the same way, right? So you reap what you sow. But so anyway, so it's time to practice the piano, and she's getting frustrated because she wanted to do it in under, her teacher challenged her to do it in under 8 seconds. And so she's getting frustrated, hitting the keys the wrong way and everything else. And I'm getting mad, because I'm just like, yo, do it. Like, I'm getting mad. I'm feeding off her negative energy. And so I might have, I'm yelling. I'm yelling. I'm trying to stay calm, everything else. But I'm like, Rain,
Swiss.
just, oh yeah, I'm Switzerland, by the way. So I try to stay even. I try to stay even keel as much as possible. But
that moment.
but at that moment, yeah, I was, Switzerland was raising the flag a little bit. So, but it was just like, do it. So she got to 8 seconds. So then she challenged herself, I'm going to do it in 6 seconds. But I can't do it. I can't do it. She's telling herself all these negative thoughts. And I said, Rain, just feel free and just play. And I told her, I said, you just play, just have fun and just play. And after she calmed down, she started playing and playing and playing and playing. And I start recording her time. She doesn't know that I'm recording her time, and I'm doing it. And so she got from 8 seconds down to 5 seconds doing it. And in that moment, I started crying. I said, come here. And she's like, pouty face and everything else, like, mad because she couldn't get 6 seconds. And I said, you see, when you're able to be free, what can happen? And I show her the clock, and it was 5 seconds. And I start crying, and she probably, was maybe weirded out, like, why is my dad crying about this? But she got the happiest face, the happiest face, smiling and everything else. But it was just one of those things where it's like, if we show our kids, I had to calm down that moment too. If we show our kids that they can be free and just to focus on what it is that they can focus on, like, they can accomplish anything. And that's the same with us as adults. Like, we let outside noise come in all the time. But yeah, that was one of my happiest proud moments, or dad moments, because it's just like she accomplished something that she told herself she couldn't do. Right.
And that go to that Kobe saying, right? Like, it's not about the end result, it's about the journey. Like, appreciate the moment while you're in it, and just continue to better yourself in that moment. That's all it's about.
That's all it's about.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, straight up. So, anything else, fellas?
Man, I mean, this is episode 1. We had all the stuff that could happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Blooper season to start. You know what I'm saying? Blooper season in the middle.
Technical difficulties and everything else. So, because Mondo, you had told us that dope story in the beginning, we're gonna let you do our final segment, which is called the Wrap It Up.
Yes, sir.
Wrap it up. Mondo is a Trojan ambassador, always practicing safe sex and wrapping it up.
I'm just practicing being a Trojan horse. That's what I'm practicing.
Okay, a Trojan horse. But yeah, tell us something, man. Wrap this conversation up. Tell us something that you enjoyed.
Nah, man. I mean, the whole conversation is dope, right? Like stepping into this conversation and being able to just freely express what was on my heart, and then through that, just open dialogue, like you guys saying things out loud, and one of them just like striking a chord, and me being like, that's exactly what I needed to hear, right? Like that's why we have these conversations. At the end of the day, we helping each other heal. You know what I'm saying? Traumas we ain't even know we needed to release, just in these conversations, they're just gonna fall off of us. And so I say to whoever's listening, like, bring one. You know what I'm saying? Like, you listening to this conversation, if you listen to the next one and the next one, like, you're like, oh, this is valuable. Like, bring one. Bring the homie. Bring your significant other. Just one person. Just be like, yo, like, you need to come be a part of this podcast because, like, it's really doing something for me. And word of mouth is the best marketing, right? So bring one.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I love it, man. So, yeah, like, subscribe, listen. You know what I'm saying? Listen to the whole thing, even if you got to listen while you sleeping, like meaning just let the phone play, so we get the hits and shit, let us do it. That's a joke, by the way, but you can do it if you really rock with us. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. So yeah, thank you for joining us for episode 1 of They Call Me Daddy. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, sir.
Peace.
Is it the first you don't succeed?